that worry about what people will think about our failures?
Well, I'm saying don't be afraid to start. I'm not saying don't be afraid, because I'm afraid all the time. I mean, the stuff I do is stuff that other people haven't done before. So there's a huge sense that something might go wrong. I mean, I wake up every day worried that something might not work right. So that fear is part of the passion in wanting to do something right and wanting to do something that no one else has ever done before. So I don't think that you need to overcome that fear, but you're not eliminating that fear. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be afraid of failure. It's okay not to want to fail. It's just not okay when you fail to stay defeated. You have to get back up and try again. And you want to try again because your plan B is going to be better than your plan A anyway. Everybody's plan B is better than their plan A. So so I don't think this concept of don't being afraid is really the right optic. I think the right optic is overcoming that fear, not eliminating it, overcoming it. It's okay to be afraid. In fact, you should be afraid. If you think you're going to glide through life and everything's going to be, roses, you're wrong. You should be afraid. A lot of bad stuff happens to good people, so you should be afraid. But overcome it, Rob. Right?
Right. So you said earlier that money isn't really your main motivator. So what is it that motivates you to do things that no one has ever done before on a global scale, to put 4 times the fiber around the world? What does motivate you then if it's not money?
Doing something that everyone says can't be done. I read an interview in this morning's paper of George Foreman. Remember, George Foreman was the heavyweight champion at 25, and then he was the heavyweight champion again, I think, at 45. And he was talking about how much smarter a boxer he was at 45. And he talked about what motivated him was everybody said he couldn't do it. So when we this project you're talking about with all the fiber 4 times around the world, we started with 12 people competing for that. And then it was 8, then it was 6, and the newspaper would mention all these bidders. They never mentioned us once until it got down to the last 3. And then they said, well, I guess I better mention him because he's sort of been hanging in there a long time. And we won that $5 billion contract. $5 billion contract is a big contract. So, proven people, being the youngest with 11 people, 7 kids, 2 parents, 2 grandparents, being the youngest in the house, you always sort of felt like you had a little bit of a chip on your shoulder anyway. But that chip gets bigger when people say you can't do it, right?
Yeah. So that actually motivates you, does it? You like proving people wrong.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So how do you deal with the critics along the way then? Is it just proving the people wrong, or does sometimes the criticism hurt you or get to you?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't really bother me. I mean, if it was personal, if someone said something personal, I suppose it would bother me. But if the criticism doesn't really bother, it can't. If you're going to be in business, you got to be a big boy or a big girl about it. You can't let most people that are criticizing you are either your competitors that are criticizing you for a business reason, or they're journalists whose job it is to have all the facts and then opine on it. As a business person, as an entrepreneur, your job is to not know the facts. You're looking into the future, and you have to make decisions standing in the present where you don't have all the facts in the future. Journalists have all the facts, and they're looking back. So, if they want to criticize you, from the front looking back, that's easy. We could all do that all day long. But try sitting in the present and trying to figure out the future. That's what a young entrepreneur or any entrepreneur has to do. But, your audience is young entrepreneurs. So that's what they have to do for a living, is stand in the present and predict what's going to happen in the future and deploy human and financial capital based on stuff that they don't know. They think, but they don't know what's going to happen. And then when it happens differently, they have to regroup and change again and again and again.
So for everyone tuning in live, not only are we at the Young Entrepreneurs Summit, which is a collaboration between myself and the Prince's Trust in the UK. One of the most proud moments in my life way beyond all my business accolades, was to be made a Rise board member of the Prince's Trust. And this event here is a collaboration between my foundation, which is the Rob Moore Foundation, and our vision is to help young and underprivileged people start meaningful businesses to change the world. And we've been going all day, but this is the first talk we've actually lived out to my communities. And I'm here with David McCourt, who's an amazing thinker, a very big thinker, loves proving people wrong. And David, once again, I just want to say thank you for giving your time. It was great to have you on the Disruptive Entrepreneur podcast. If you'd like me to get you a big audience on Clubhouse, just let me know, this new social media platform. I'd love to get your message out to more people. But we are talking about young entrepreneurs in this session. So, David, I think, well, I know because I have a lot of people that come to me and say, oh, you know, I'm not that experienced yet. And they feel their youth is a disadvantage. But I have a feeling that there are advantages to being young when you're an entrepreneur. Would you agree that the youth has an advantage? And if so, what are they?
Oh, 1,000,000%. Of course they do. Look, the only thing old entrepreneurs have is they have some more experience and they probably have some money, right? Well, the capital is easy to get if you have a good idea. So you don't have to worry about that. The experience is very valuable if you're an operating man or woman. Experience is very valuable if you're an operating person. But if you're trying to do something that no one's ever done before, the experience can be as much as a detriment as it can be an asset. But as a young person, you have youth, you have energy, you have curiosity, you have optimism, you have endless energy, and there's no reason for you to, you're probably not going to lose your beach house because you don't have one yet. You're not going to, lose you drive fancy cars. I don't, but you're not going to lose your fancy car. You don't have one yet. So, you live in a small apartment. Maybe you have a roommate. Maybe you're on the couch of your girlfriend's sister's house or something. You have nothing to lose. So just go for it. They have all the advantages. And the young people, look, they're going to be in charge on a going forward basis way more than the past. In the past, everything came from the top down. Policy came from the top down. Business rules and regulation came from the top down. Sort of enterprise and politicians set the rules for civilized society from the top down. That's the way it's been for a couple hundred years. Now, a couple thousand years. Now it's the bottom up. It's 100%. There's been a power shift to the bottom. Young people are going to set all the rules for civilized society. So they have all the advantage in the world. And if you think of all the great entrepreneurs, your earlier guest mentioned Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or Thomas Edison or Madame Curie or Martin Luther King or Ben Franklin. These people had hugely entrepreneurial mindsets. And, Madame Curie, she won? She won 2 Nobel Prizes, right? She had a kid in between, and she was taking care of her little babies while she was winning a couple of those. So these are people that have a very entrepreneurial mindset, and they're all young. So the youth has the whole game right now. Us old guys are just hanging on.
Let's talk about schools and actually, no, let's talk to parents because we've got quite a lot of parents watching. There's quite a lot of parents watching with their kids as well. So what tips could you give if a parent wants to raise some entrepreneurial, creative, problem-solving kids?
Well, first of all, let's just step back and define entrepreneurial for a minute. My book, Total Rethink, I was trying to encourage, and that was written for people who didn't have the advantages I had. I had a hardworking father who saved up money so I could go to university. A lot of people can't. You have either too many kids or maybe the father or mother lost their job or whatever, so they don't have the money. In the States, university is very, very expensive. So I wrote my book to try to benefit people that didn't have the same advantages I had. But my book is not about being an entrepreneur to make a lot of money. It's trying to train people to think more entrepreneurially. So the problem with the educational system today is the educational system basically hasn't changed. The way they teach people and what you teach is basically been flatlined for 50, 60 years, 70 years. But yet the skills we need look like this. So you have education that's looking like this. You have skills that are looking like this, and then you have existing jobs that are looking like this. Existing jobs going like this, the new skills we need going like this, and education flat. So that's a tough construct for a new world. You know, when Hillary Clinton lost the presidential race, one of the areas that she lost was West Virginia, which was 100% she thought she had in the bag. And she lost it because she went into West Virginia, which is a coal mining area in America. And she said, we need to shut all the coal mines down. And Trump went in and he said, you know, coal, coal, coal. Now, Trump didn't have a plan. That's a side issue. And the world's not going coal, coal, coal. See, that was just one of the many 4-letter words he knows. But the world's not going there. He was just saying that. But the point is, when she went in there and said, we need to shut all the mines down, what she should have said was, we need to figure, and then we're going to retrain people. How do you retrain a 50-year-old guy who's been in a mine for 30 years? I mean, that's not happening. What she should have said is, we need to create the jobs of the future. We need to develop the skills of the future. And after everyone's employed, then we'll close the coal mines. You can't take people's job away and take their dignity away and take their ability to care for their family away and then say, oh, we'll retrain you. Like that doesn't work. So, politicians have it backwards. So you need to develop the skills and the jobs first, then do things like shut down the coal mines. But anyway, you're asking about the parents. So what the parents need to do is just encourage the children to be curious and optimistic. And that's 90% of the battle. Just be curious. And like I said earlier, be a social scientist. See what's going on in the world. Talk to as many people as you can. Think, read, be more thoughtful. Don't be, just following like-minded people on social media, which is one of the unfortunate things with social media is you get into an echo chamber of like-minded people and you all go one direction together, and you've lost the ability to listen to other people or other points of view, which is unfortunate.
Thank you, David. So are there money or business related things that aren't taught in school that you think should be taught in school?
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, the school, one thing they should teach in school is sort of how to connect the dots. Like when I was young, before social media, you had to learn how to connect the dots because you couldn't Google the answer to everything. So, and you couldn't afford to read 1,000 books. So you had to you'd read one book and then you'd see what in that book do you agree with, what do you disagree with? You go to the end, you'd see what the reference was, and you'd go say, okay, this is the reference. So I'm going to find another book by that author based on this reference. And then you'd sort of connect the dots and you'd talk to people and you'd learn how to connect thoughts and pieces of information to come up with, a construct that you believed in. Now people just Google the answer. But if you do that for a whole generation, you lose the ability to learn how to connect the dots. And another thing people should teach from, in America, I'm in Dublin now, but in America, they call it kindergarten, from the very low levels of school. They need to teach people how to absorb information on the web, how to absorb journalism, how to absorb information, because just because you read it, just because you saw it on the internet doesn't make it true. So you have to learn, again, how to connect the dots and find out whether something's right or something's wrong. And I think learning how to connect the dots and learning how to absorb information and separate fact from fiction, or what we like to say nowadays, fake news, is, I think that's a skill that has to be worked into the curriculum early and often. And look, it's unfortunate that, when my grandfather came to America from Ireland, he was a janitor, but with a janitor's salary and his wife not working, so with one janitor's salary, he could own a home, he could educate my mother, send her to school, he could pay all his doctor bills, take care of healthcare. Now that, politicians talk about how globalization has dropped the cost of everything. Well, it's dropped the cost of everything except the three things that are important: housing, education, and healthcare. So it's tough. It's very, very tough in a globalized world. But hopefully, these young entrepreneurs in your summit are going to change all that and fix all these problems soon.
Yeah, please. So, what's the best advice you can ever remember receiving?
Oh, probably from my mother, who said, she was very fond of saying, look, no matter how bad your day is going, no matter how bad you're having it at this particular moment, just remember there are lots of people that have it worse. So you just have to pick yourself up and just keep on going forward and don't look back. And she was really fond of saying, look, doesn't matter how bad you have it off, someone has it worse, and just keep on going forward. And she had that, she lived to be almost 103. And, I remember when she was 101, she fell down and broke her pelvis. And, when she was in the hospital, I was like, oh, Mom, I feel so bad. She goes, look, if this hadn't happened, I wouldn't have got to meet all these nice people. And she turned to the nurse and she goes, look at the smile on that beautiful girl. I never would have met her if I hadn't fallen down. That's her attitude. So it's no doubt the best advice I ever got.
And what's the worst advice you can ever remember receiving?
I sold during the dot-com boom. I sold 20% of a company for $1.65 billion. And I said to Morgan Stanley, I said, let's sell the whole thing. Because we had $6 billion of debt. I said, let's just sell the whole thing. We'd have a couple billion left over after we paid the debt. It would be great, right? And I was outside Bravo Gianni's restaurant on East 63rd between 1st and 2nd. And right before we went in, I turned to this guy, Paul Taubman. I said, hey, Paul, I said, let's sell the whole thing. He wants to buy the whole thing. He goes, no. We'll sell 20%. We'll sell the rest of it later. And about 9 months later, the dot-com bust happened. And, never had a chance to sell anymore. And that money went to pay off debt. So definitely the worst advice I ever got. Worst advice ever. And I remind him often. I talk to him, remind him often.
Ouch. Is there one regret you have in your career, David?
Not yet. I still have time. Not yet. No. I mean, I've been blessed though. I've been really, really blessed, Rob. And I've had a good go of it. I've met a lot of great people, and you probably should spend more time with friends. You probably should spend more time with the people you love. You probably, should spend more time, out in nature, listening to the birds sing. You probably should be doing those things, but I do as much of that as I can as well. So I don't have any regrets. Thank God.
Is there something that for a long time you believed, but recently, or you changed your mind about?
Something I believed, and now I have changed my mind. Boy, I can't. I have, and a lot of people do. You develop this skill as a business person or as an entrepreneur, that as your thinking evolves, you grab ownership of it yourself. You know what I mean? So as you might think something that looks like this, and then other people say, no, it's not like that. It's not like that. It's not like that. It's this way. It's this way. This way. And then one day you're like saying, oh, I got it. It's this way. And everybody's looking at you like, you got to be shitting me. Like I was saying that for 2 months, right? I was saying that for 2 months. But you have an ability to sort of absorb those different points of view and jam it into your original thinking and sort of bend the reality back to something that resembles what you thought at the beginning. And it's not taking credit for other people's ideas. It's more that you're sort of shaping your own thinking as you go, and you're absorbing information from everyone else, and you're putting it in like little building blocks into your own thinking. But I suppose if you dissected it and looked backwards, you'd say that you believed something totally different from what you believed at the beginning. In business, this happens all the time. We built the first competitive phone company in America, and we thought for sure the big problem would be propensity to switch. You knock on someone's door and you say, we have this new product, and and it's 30% cheaper. And, you know, it was people gonna be like, oh, I've been with AT&T for 100 years. My father was with AT&T. My grandfather was with AT&T. My great grandfather, I can't switch. And we thought that was going to be the big problem. That wasn't a problem at all. Everybody hated AT&T. Everybody wanted to switch. That wasn't the problem. The problem was getting the regulatory approval to, you know, to put the cables in the ground. So you think one thing's going to be the problem, then you start on your business venture and you find out it's something else. I'm sure you've seen that in the real estate business. By the way, Rob, how about this? I took up guitar last year, a year ago, Christmas, right? I have a beautiful Martin guitar I'm looking at in my study, and my guitar teacher comes over and he says, hey, can I, so he's, you know, he's, I don't know how old he is, 55, whatever. And he said, look, I've had a music store my whole life and I shut it down and because of COVID. Now I have to, you know, rethink my whole life. And he said, you know, will you give me a half hour of your time to help me think my business out? I said, sure, I will. And he said, well, I went to London and I went to this progressive real estate course with this guy, Rob Moore. And I took this course. So I want to go in the real estate business. So he's a guy from Rural Island, a mile from my house in the middle of nowhere. And anyway, he took your course and you're going to help him become a rich entrepreneur in real estate.
Hey. Well, it's nice to know that we're making an impact, David. Thank you for telling me that. That's great.
Yeah, it was great. It was great fun. I said, I know that guy, Rob Moore.
Right. Final question, David. Is there something that you believe that most other people you know or most of the planet don't believe?
Most people don't believe. Yeah, but probably that most people, it goes right back to the first thing I said, most people think that stuff is really important and stuff, you know, and they like to spend the whole life collecting stuff. You know what I mean? And, you know, that stuff, you know, you worry about losing it. You worry about someone taking it. You know, I saw a guy, I used to be a construction foreman and I was doing a job and I was young. And in construction, if the equipment, you know, breaks down during the day, you try to repair it during lunch or after work. So you don't, you know, if it's a big digger, right? It's big wheels on it. It can still dig if it has a flat tire. It just can't move very well. So usually what you do is you organize these trucks that come and they take these huge wheels that are 7 feet high and they take them off and they repair them anyway. So it's 10 o'clock in the morning and I drive up and everybody's leaning on their shovel. And I'm like, you know, what's going on? And they're like, well, this guy, you got a flat, and I had to call the repair guy out. I said, look, why didn't you call after work? He said, I tried. The guy said he was busy after work. And I said, you know, that's your job to figure out how to get that slot, you know? And while I'm saying this I was a supervisor, to the foreman, the guy that's trying to change the tire is swinging the axe to try to get the axe between the rim and the tire. Anyway, he's swinging it. He's swinging away. So I drive away and I come back like 10 minutes later to see how they're doing. And the guy that was swinging the axe had a heart attack. And he's laying in the mud, and someone driving down the road had seen it, had stopped to give him CPR. And while they're giving him CPR, his wallet, you know those wallets that are connected by a chain, Rob, that, you know, that a lot of blue collar workers use, is a big wallet. It sort of comes out of his pocket while they're giving him CPR because they're pushing on him and he's moving in the mud and he's in the ground. And it opens up and it's so perfectly organized. It is, you know, all these pictures on one side and the credit cards on the other. It's like something that like 2 hours earlier, he, you know, before he put it in his pocket, he made sure it was organized, you know? And the guy that's giving him CPR's foot is pushing on it and pushing the credit cards and the photographs sort of into the mud by accident, you know, with his back foot as he's pushing on his chest. And it just, that moment, I don't know, 22 years old, 23 years old. In that moment, I like had this thing about how this guy 120 minutes earlier, everything in his wallet was the most important thing in his life. And now it's the least important thing in his life, like that, right? And that was a gazillion years ago. And, you know, even though it was 50 years, 40 years ago, I think about it all the time. So the stuff you think is important just isn't that important. It just isn't.
And what a great way to end. So David, just before you go, Firstly, I want to thank you so much. I love talking to you. So thank you for everything that you do.
And hopefully someone will buy this, or I'll send them a free one or something, because I think it will help people. It will help them think. It might not help them make a ton of money, but it'll help them live a more interesting life. If they want to live an ordinary life, don't read it. If they want to live an extraordinary life, they should read it, in my opinion.
So before I met David, I listened to Total Rethink. I thought it was a fantastic book. So it's called Total Rethink by David McCourt. Could you just show us it again, David, so we can see what it looks like? Ben, if you could put it in the comments, that'd be great. So Total Rethink by David McCourt.
And this is the old version, by the way, because I don't have the new version. This is not the one you want. You want to buy the Wiley version, which looks a little different. This was the first version. If you buy it, it'll end up being used. The second version has a different top, but I can't find it. I don't know where it is.
And is there anything else you're working on that you want to talk about anywhere you're on social media we can connect?
Well, they can always get me at DC McCourt on social media, on Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn or something. But at DC McCourt on social media, they can get me. And, I hope they get the book, and then I hope they reach out to me, and I'll respond to them. If they reach out on Instagram and they read the book, I'll be glad to engage with them.
Been a pleasure, David. Thank you for everything.
My pleasure. Thank you. And congratulations on doing all this work.
Thank you. Really appreciate it, David. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Just buying the book on Audible. That was awesome. Guys, we're coming to the end. But we've got two great speakers, two great experts, two great guests. But it's been absolutely awesome. Now, our next expert is someone who's very well sought after. It's quite hard to get hold of, but Rob has kind of pulled this off. So many people want to speak to this guy about what he's done. Ben Francis has really set the cat amongst the pigeons. I think that might be the right term. He's the founder and the ambitious entrepreneur behind the leading UK fitness brand Gymshark. Ben founded it when he was 19 years old. He was a student at Aston University. In addition to his full-time commitment to his studies, Ben jobbed working as a pizza delivery man to fund his Gymshark venture. The rest is history. It's become a global brand now. And it's really, really, so many people are like looking at this saying, how did he do this? Well, you're about to find out. Ben, it's amazing to have you here. Rob, the floor is yours. I'm going to be taking notes. Let's do this. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Pete. So, Ben.
Hello, Rob. Lovely to meet you. How are you?
Yeah, good, Ben. Thanks a lot for doing the Young Entrepreneurs Summit. Really appreciate it.
That's all right. That's all right. I just need to say, as I was coming on then, my computer has said it will restart to do an update in 15 minutes. So if I disappear, I'll jump on my other computer and I'll come back straight away. So just giving you a heads up on that.
Yeah, no worries. It's probably not done that for 10 years. And as soon as you do a live summit back.
Just jumps on. Honestly, I couldn't believe it. But yeah, lovely to meet you. I'm looking forward to chatting today.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. So I'm going to ask you the most ridiculously open-ended question in the history of questions ever. Yeah. Take as long as you want to answer it, because it's a brilliant journey you've gone on. So how'd you go from age 19 to then having a £1 billion company at age 28?
Oh God. So I was incredibly lucky for one. I was incredibly lucky. Sorry, 2 seconds. Sorry.
That's all right.
That was Robert. That was my girlfriend giving me my laptop just in case this shuts down. Yeah, so I was incredibly lucky. If I go back to growing up as a kid, my grandparents in particular were very entrepreneurial. So I was quite lucky to be exposed at a young age to high levels of risk and running a business essentially. So I was quite lucky in that respect. And I was sort of, without even knowing it, being sort of acclimatized to what it feels like and the stresses, the strains and so on. And then I did a bunch of different things, right? And listen, I failed so many times. I had 7 or 8 different websites. All of them failed miserably. And I was very, very lucky because Gymshark was the one that did really well. And I think people assume that it was the first thing that I tried and it just blew up, and it was far from that. And funnily enough, Gymshark wasn't really a business venture. It was literally a case of me and some of my mates making the clothes that we wanted to wear to the gym. And we literally just bought a screen printer and a sewing machine and started doing it. Spent 2 years hand making the product. And fast forward to today, we've got about 550 staff around the world. Finished last calendar year on just over $500 million in revenue. Yeah, it's been a crazy few years.
Wow, what a journey. So a couple of things I'd like to pick out that you said there, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing is you've been very lucky, which I think is a very humble thing to say. So do you also think you make your own luck?
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of that, right? So when I say that I'm lucky, I mean, so when I was very young, well, I say very young, I was probably 13 years old. I was working with my granddad, and I was essentially I was lining furnaces with brick and ceramic fiber, and he would tell me stories about how he remortgaged the house to build his business. So at the time, that was a really cool story that I was hearing. And looking back, I was being almost like mentally preparing myself and understanding that that level of risk is the level of risk that you need to take to have a successful business oftentimes. You know, again, having a great upbringing. I grew up in the West Midlands, where I still live now, and it is an amazing place with amazing people. I absolutely love it here. So I think having a good upbringing helped. And then when I look at Gymshark as a business, it's sort of at the intersection of a lot of change in the world. So social media is blowing up outside of nowhere, and it has completely changed the landscape of how we communicate. Health and fitness is a top priority of so many people around the world. And all of a sudden, because of great companies like Shopify, people are purchasing online from brands that they've never heard of. And 10 years ago, people wouldn't just rock up online and buy from a brand they'd never heard of. So I think luck comes in so many different shapes and sizes, and I think it's situational, those three sort of stars aligning. It's also the background of myself, my skill set being valuable at a time now. Again, 50 years ago, it probably wouldn't have been as valuable. And maybe in 50 years' time, my skill set might not be as valuable. So I think luck comes in all shapes and sizes. And then to answer the second part of your question, yes, I do think you make your own luck to a degree as well as that. And there's countless examples of sort of intuitive thinking or, you know, taking that risk. And even when I look at Gymshark, I do think what we've done is very unique. But there were a lot of other brands when we started doing quite a similar thing, which aren't here today. And I think a lot of that is down to us making our own luck and taking risks.
Thanks, Ben. So you talked about some skills that you have or you've developed. So what are they? You know, what skills do you need to be successful in business or as a young entrepreneur?
So I'm a firm believer that it varies dramatically depending on the business and the life stage of the business. So when Gymshark first started, it was worth my while to be arrogant, very dominant in where I think it was going. And essentially my role in the business was to drag the business from where it was to where I thought it should be by hook or by crook, right? So if in the first 2 years you said to me, Ben, I don't think that's going to work, my response would have been something along the lines of, I don't care, I'm going to give it a go anyway. Now, that works up to a period. And then all of a sudden, as you start to build great teams, you realize that just isn't going to continue. And it can't continue because you need to be the amalgamation of all the ideas of the people around you. And you need to then take those ideas and morph it into a vision and then learn to communicate it in an eloquent and inspiring way. So all of a sudden, I had this reality check when I had some great people around me, and I realized I can't act in that way. So I then had to adapt. So I think those skills definitely adapt as you change. Adapt as the business grows and depending on what sort of line of work you're in. Now, there's a few things that I think are really important. I think you have to be able to learn new skills quickly and be very, very open-minded with them. Again, like learning how to speak, articulate my vision, even just being open-minded to certain things that I would consider boring parts of the business, I think has been really important as well.
Thanks, Ben. Failure. What's your attitude with failure? Because I think sometimes, not just young entrepreneurs, everyone, we're so worried about failing. We're worried about what people think about us. You sound like you were raised in an environment where maybe that wasn't such a bad thing, but can you talk us on your attitude of failure and what a good attitude is in that to be successful?
I believe I think you have to be wary of failure, but you can't let your failures define you. So all the best people I've met are not in any way defined by their failures, and they can almost laugh at them a little bit. Whereas I've met some people that would never allow you to think that they've failed, and generally they tend to be the ones that don't sort of perform as well in my experience, in a business or entrepreneurial setting. So you're right. I'll give you an example as well. I worked my absolute socks off to get into university. And at the age of 17, 18, when I got into university, which I don't think people thought I'd be able to get into university before that. But when I did get into university, at the time, it was the biggest achievement of my life. My parents in particular were just massively, massively proud of me. I was the first Francis to have ever gone to university. Unfortunately, I didn't quite finish. And I remember when I called my mom and dad up and said, listen, I'm going to drop out of university. I don't want to do it anymore. They disagreed with me because they thought I'd worked so hard for it. And then it gave me so much opportunities that they never had and my grandparents never had, and so on and so on. But the second I made the decision to quit university, and I said, no, that's my mind made up, they completely and utterly supported it. There was never a point where, and there was tough times after it, there was never a point where they said, oh, maybe if you could go back, or maybe you shouldn't have done that. So that's, I think that's an example of what could have been a failure at the time, but I was fully supported on it. So I'm really open-minded with failure, and that's both personally, I'm quite happy to fail. I'm quite happy to fail publicly as well. And I try and encourage that as often as I can internally at the company as well.
Great. So you sound like you've turned your passion into a profession, like something you were actually interested in.
Yeah.
30 or 40 years ago, our fathers or grandfathers would go to work, do manufacturing, come home for 40 years and then maybe retire. But the world's different. And you can take something that you love and you can turn it into a really successful business. So is that something you did? And how can we merge that passion and profession mix?
Now, I think we're at a really good point, aren't we now? Because there's such a huge fundamental shift in the landscape from retail and offline to online and social. Like I've seen other companies, with all due respect, just take what other companies are doing offline, online, and be really successful at it. So I don't think there's been a better opportunity to turn your passion into a business, I think, than ever. The opportunity is massive, and it's mental, right? How you can have the smallest niche in the world. What was I looking at the other day? We're moving house, and I was Googling door handles, and there was a website. It was like doorhandles.co.uk that only did door handles. Like, do you know what I mean? No one could have done that a while ago. So I think that's so cool that even the tiniest niche, no matter how niche your passion is, there's an opportunity for you to turn that into a business now, where maybe that wasn't possible 50 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings us nicely onto social media, because there was no social media 50 years ago. You're pretty prolific on social media. In fact, I think we first connected on LinkedIn. So how important has social media been in the development of Gymshark, and how have you embraced it and used it?
I mean, social media has been massive, absolutely massive for Gymshark. And it was never a strategic decision. There was never like a group of us sat in a room saying, we're going to use social media to do this. It was just because we grew up on MySpace and Bebo, and then Facebook, and then Instagram, and then Snapchat and YouTube throughout. So it just made sense to communicate via the channels that we communicated with our mates with on. So to be honest, social media has been massive for us, and it's been, it's pretty much allowed us to communicate with the community that we've created.
Is it something that you were naturally up for and found easy, or did you actually have to teach yourself to, put yourself out there, if you like?
From a commercial sense for Gymshark, it was very, very easy, because I knew exactly what I wanted to do on it and how we wanted to get our message across. And the community started to build rapidly, which helped. Personally, I was very, very, very reluctant to put myself on social media, and I only did it properly about, the business is about 8 years old. It probably took me about 4 or 5 years into the business before I even started posting on social media. And I reluctantly did it because one lad in Dublin came up to me and said to me, I'm really inspired by the Gymshark journey, but I just don't hear anything about it. Can you just do one video that explains the story and how it started? And I was like, I'll tell you what, yeah, I'll do one video. Why not? And we'll see how it goes. And it just went brilliant from then on. So commercially, yes. Personally, no. I was very reluctant.
And is that because you're naturally not a gregarious person, or is it security and privacy? What are the reasons?
Yeah, a combination of everything, to be honest. Very private person, very introverted. It just wasn't anything that, to be honest, was particularly exciting to me. And then it was only when I started to do it and I got sort of that positive reinforcement and the snowball effect happened, and I thought, you know what, this is quite fun. I actually enjoyed it. So yeah, it's just something that it didn't grab me in the same way that other things did. And since I've started doing it, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, to be honest.
So you said initially social media wasn't something that excites you. So what does? And remember, we have some young audience members.
What excites me? To be honest, social media massively excites me now. I love what I do. I'm at my core, I'm a creative person. So I'll go down a million rabbit holes, different things that I'll fall in love with and obsess over, whether it's motorcycles or defenders or, you know, one facet of the business. And that's the fortunate thing for me now, is the Gymshark business is so large that I can jump into different facets and obsess over them rather than obsessing over Gymshark then something else. So yeah, I mean, outside of work, I'm just always thinking of creative things and having creative pursuits. Whereas now, to be honest, the vast majority of my life is dedicated to the business.
And is there a driving why behind what you do? You know, you don't have to take Gymshark as big as you have, and I bet you want to take it bigger. So what's driving that?
So the core thing that drove it for me, right, was...
Oh, I think that's his computer gone, isn't it? Look at the image it's paused him on. This is great, by the way. I'm loving this. Really loving this. He'll come back on. He said this would happen. Look at this. Making up, like, literally all the questions just coming out as we're talking. Yeah. Yeah. If you're watching the live, let me know what you've been thinking so far of the billionaire David McCourt, of Ben Francis. We're very lucky to have Ben. He doesn't do many interviews. I spoke to a couple of people, one today who's very well known, and he said, you know what, you've done really well to get Ben, so you're in a privileged position. He did say his computer would restart or might restart, so I'm sure we'll get him back. But let me know in the comments if you're watching the live, because we're actually live streaming this out to Facebook and to YouTube. Let me know what you thought of David McCourt, the billionaire, and let me know what you think of Ben. Yeah, I've 15 new questions just keep coming out. I love doing stuff like this, by the way. It's just so exciting to meet really cool, interesting, disruptive, passionate, enthusiastic people. So Duncan there, pages of notes. Connor, loving it. Incredible to hear such a wealth of experience.
He's back.
There
He's
he
back.
is. Hey, Ben.
I'm so sorry.
No, you warned us. That's fine.
The tech team here at Gymshark do this thing where they force updates on you and you can't get away from them, and they put them on Saturday evenings because they think people won't be doing their work. And
yeah, yeah, we're all good, right then. So you're still very young.
Yeah.
So what advantages do you think youth has in entrepreneurship?
Ooh, what advantages do I think I've had due to age or just in general?
Yeah, because sometimes I think younger people think they're disadvantaged because they haven't got experience or money yet. But I think that, you know, there's lots of advantages of being a younger entrepreneur.
Oh, so going back to what I said at the start about working with my granddad and remortgaging the house, right? He remortgaged the house with 2 kids and a wife and a hell of a lot of responsibility. People completely and utterly underestimate the opportunity that youth brings because you have less responsibilities than when you're older. Like, to grow Gymshark, there was 3 or 4 times I risked every single penny I had personally and the business had for it to succeed. Now, when I've got kids and so on, I'm not convinced I would have taken that same risk. I'll be first to admit that, whereas others would take that risk. So I think youth brings huge opportunity in the sense that you have the ability to take more risk than when you're older.
Yeah, 100%. Do you feel like, as well, being younger, you didn't have the jaundice of 40 years of rejection? And do you feel like you maybe were a bit naive of how hard business can be, which can be a good thing?
Yeah, there's definitely that naivety, but then you can approach problems that have been solved a million times over with a completely fresh set of eyes, which I think is great. You know, it's brilliant, because otherwise you would just do it the way it's always been done. So opportunity in terms of just seeing things from a fresh set of eyes is very, very important as well, especially in a business like the scale that we're at now.
let's say Gymshark wasn't a thing. You weren't allowed it. You couldn't be in the same market, but you were starting again as a young entrepreneur.
Yeah.
What business models would you get into and what would excite you?
Oh God, so many things. Okay, what business model? The business model would probably be quite similar to Gymshark. Am I in the position that I'm in now, or am I starting from scratch?
You know what you know, but you can't do the same business.
Fine. I would just follow my passion then. Motorcycles. I'd be doing motorcycles. I'd be doing motorcycle accessories. Not because I think it's a big market opportunity, because I absolutely love it. Or spare parts for like Land Rover Defenders and things like that. I would just be messing around with stuff like that, to be honest. I find it fascinating.
And I guess you'd probably leverage social media, would you?
Yeah, 100%. Listen, like social media, regardless of what you're doing, whether it's, selling retail product or car parts or fitness wear or whatever you're doing, social media is the place to be.
Great. Right. So let's talk about team now. 550 staff. That's serious. Do you have external shareholders as well?
Yes. So there's myself, there's 2 other people, and then we have internal shareholding amongst the leadership team, and then we have an external investment company called General Atlantic as well.
So you are quite accountable to a lot of people. I mean, that's a lot of people that are like, Ben, just, keep us going. How does that make you feel?
Massively empowered and excited. There's someone that I know you interviewed called Jordan Peterson that talks about responsibility giving meaning. That is one of the most fundamental truths I've learned in growing this business. The more responsibility I take on, the more meaning my life has.
Yeah, I think people underestimate that because there's a lot of talk about, I want to be my own boss. I don't want to be responsible. I don't want to answer to anyone. I want to do what I want. I just want a laptop and I want to press a few buttons and the money roll in.
You become more responsible and more answerable. So like this is the funny thing, right, is because we have a lot of like young people coming into the business and moving from entry level roles into managerial roles. And oftentimes, similar to what you've just sort of alluded to there, they'll assume, oh, great, now people work for me. But it's completely the wrong way around. When you've got people reporting into you, you work for them and you need to be aware, there for them. You need to support them and you need to give them the tools to allow them to succeed. So it is the opposite way around. So you end up working in overdrive to support the people that report into you.
External finance. So has that, that cash, has that helped grow the company maybe more than if you just self-financed?
Yeah, so to be honest, that only happened about 6 months ago. So we grew. In fact, something I'm really proud of. We were one of the few UK businesses to get to a unicorn valuation with no external investment, which was just brilliant, and I'm super, super proud of it. Now, we ended up taking that investment and looking out for that investment at a point where we didn't need it. So I think that's really important as well. Because I think if anyone is listening to this who is thinking of getting investment, the best point to do it right is when you don't need it, because it gives you leverage and opportunity and so on. But to be honest, the thing that they've really helped us with, and they continue, they're a brilliant company. I would recommend them all day long, is they help us expand internationally. Now, that's really interesting for us now because we are at a stage where we want to become truly global. And their expertise in the APAC market and North America market is just brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
And are there any differences now between, essentially bootstrapping it all the way up, self-financing, and now having external finances? Are you more answerable? Has it changed the culture in any way?
No, not really, to be honest. We were a very, very robust business previously, and we built ourselves in that way purposefully. So it doesn't change. And because General Atlantic are culturally so similar to what we built at Gymshark, if anything, it's more of a culture add. So it's been great.
Great. So I fundamentally believe that not enough about money and business is taught at school. So are there anything that you've learned along the way about money and business that you think they should teach at school?
Oh, God, yeah. They don't teach anywhere near enough. There was something really interesting that happened to me, right, about when I was about 24 as the business started to grow. Now, when the business started to grow, all of a sudden, I got to meet a load of really fucking cool people. I'm sorry if I can't swear.
You just did anyway. So
I got to meet a load of really cool people. Growing up, my parents and my grandparents and everyone else I was around, their dream their utter dream was to pay off the mortgage, right? And that's an amazing dream to have, and I think that's cool. So I had the opportunity to pay off a mortgage, which was, again, dream come true for me. It was incredible. And my dad, my grandparents, everyone was like, Ben, this is amazing for you. This is so good. Just pay it off. And then I started speaking to some of these people that I'd met, these brilliant financiers, these people that had been educated, in terms of finance and managing money and wealth and so on. And then they started talking about, wait a minute, Ben, you're borrowing this money on a mortgage at an extremely cheap rate. There's other things that you can do, and you can start moving things around, and there's so much more opportunity for you. And I remember someone saying to me, the mortgage is the cheapest money you'll ever borrow. And, it made me think a lot about that. So it was very interesting for me to meet people that had been properly financially educated. And obviously there's risks, that come with things like this. But that shift made a big, big difference to me. And it really helped me learn and understand about finance in a way that I hadn't been taught. And I don't know if that was because of my educational background or West Midlands or class or whatever the hell it was, but it just didn't end up coming to me. So I completely agree with you. I think it would be great if we taught more business and finance at school than we do.
100%. So you've got and had business partners.
Yes.
I've had a business partner for 15 years. And honestly, without him, I definitely would have been nowhere near what I'm able to do today. Has it made a big difference and an impact? And has it been positive experience for you having business partners?
Yeah, definitely. The advice I would give is try and partner up with someone. Well, one, culturally, you have to be, the same. You have to have the same ambition and motivation and drive and vision. But you want to almost be like opposites in the other things that you do. So if you're highly creative, sit with someone that's highly organized. Do you know what I mean? I think that's your basic sort of step one check. And you want to be able to bounce off each other and learn from each other as well. So yeah, business partners, I think, are hugely valuable.
Did you have an exit? Have you ever parted or exited or bought out any business partners?
Yes, yeah. So we, the person that I co-founded the business with actually left in the last deal, right. And that was great for them.
What great for them, as in they wanted out, or great for them as in the payday?
All of it, financially, emotionally. I think they were really happy with where they'd got to. Like Lewis wasn't involved in the business from a day-to-day basis at the time, so he wasn't as emotionally invested as me. So yeah, it was a great opportunity for him all around.
Great. So haters, always got to talk about haters. You come across like a really level-headed, balanced individual. Have any of the haters ever got to you? Has it ever hurt or upset you, or do you have a plan or a strategy?
So this is one of the benefits of spending the first 4 or so years pretty much off social media. So I didn't ever get to see any of it, which was really useful. Listen, I'm sure there are people that probably are a little bit more pessimistic about maybe myself or my vision, and that's cool. That's fine. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I just really don't read into any of it, to be honest. Like maybe in the last couple of years, I've seen 1 or 2 comments and that's it. So I'm really trying to avoid it at all costs if I can.
So you wouldn't entertain it?
No, not in any way. So no. I met someone a while ago, a guy, he is a huge guy on social media called Jon Olsson, a Swedish guy. And I remember he told me that one day he just said, right, anything negative, I'm just not going to have anything to do with it. Negative email, negative comment, negative. I'm just going to completely wash my hands of it. And it's like it doesn't exist. And I just, he said it completely changed his life and made a huge difference. So I just applied that same rule a few years ago and it's been brilliant for me.
Yeah. I'm friends with Jake Wood, who's Max Branning, or was Max Branning on EastEnders. He said the same thing. He said, it used to take up so much time. One day he decided zero tolerance. And he said, when you have zero tolerance, they don't come back. As soon as you reply to them, they come back and they come back. And then, so yeah, zero tolerance. I sometimes just can't help having a bit of fun with them. That's just my nature. But I think you have the best plan. Right, we've got 4 questions left, Ben. I want to thank you very much in advance. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's definitely been fun for me, and we've had loads of great comments. So best advice you've ever received or you can remember receiving?
Well, it's really simple, right, in top line, but just trust your gut. Like, I think the only very few regrets that I do have been when I haven't trusted my gut and gone through with something. That would probably be the best piece of advice that I've ever got, and I've stuck to it for the most part. It's held true.
Great. And then the worst advice you ever remember receiving?
Oh God. What's the worst advice I've ever had? I don't know, to be honest. It'll probably be something around, it would probably been something around someone trying to blow smoke at my arse sort of thing, like, oh, you're unique or special and so on, which I just don't think is true. I think everyone has to adapt and change and learn and grow. I don't think anyone's like just the finished article and need to stay as they are. So I don't know exactly, but it'll be something around that.
And this is a separate one because I've still got two more, but how do you stay level-headed? How do you stay grounded? You're very successful and there's no getting away from that.
An amazing family, an amazing girlfriend, and a brilliant set of friends. So like I consider my work life to be insanely, incredibly chaotic. So outside of COVID, the year before it was 50 plus long haul flights a year. So you're talking a flight a week, so many people growing rapidly, offices around the world. It's just chaos, chaos, chaos. And it's controlled chaos. So my personal life is just completely and utterly stable. Brilliant girlfriend who just supports me completely. And obviously I support her. So having that sort of yin and yang is massively important for me.
Great. Is there something that for quite a long time you believe to be true, but maybe in recent times you've changed your mind on?
Change my mind on? I'm really not sure. I don't know, to be honest.
That's good. That's all good. Final question then. Is there something that you believe to be true, but many others around you or society doesn't believe? So there's something that you just think differently to others about.
God, you could have warmed me up for these questions. These are intense.
These are the last two. I have warmed you up.
To be honest, the only thing, and I don't think it's the fact that I believe it and society doesn't, but I think the thing that I've been fortunate to do, but I know a lot of people don't, is just invest in the people around you. Like that whole thing of you're the average of the people you spend time around. You see all these quotes. It's so important to surround yourself with great, great people. And people will avoid doing that because it damages their ego when they realize that they're terrible at certain things, and everyone is terrible at certain things. So I'm massively, massively passionate about great teams that work together towards the same vision. And, they're greater than the sum of their parts. And I think it's very, very difficult to do that. But I think once you can master that skill, I think you can achieve anything.
And when you say it's difficult to do that, are you saying surrounding yourself with people who will challenge you and not just pander to your ego? Is that what you mean?
Listen, it's heartbreaking at the start when people challenge you and they're right, they're right, and you're wrong, and you've built up this image of yourself as being this great person, and you're just not because you're bad at what you're talking about. So it is heartbreaking, but like I said, it's so powerful if you can achieve it.
And so you defining great people is what would define a great person around you?
So it really depends, because with teams you need different types of people, but it's essentially highly motivated, intelligent people that are good human beings that want to create change in the world.
Great. So Ben, where should people follow you? Is there a promotion you're doing right now, or is it just a general website?
Yeah, listen, just check out Gymshark. Think about us next time you're looking for some fitness wear or want some inspiration online. My name's Ben Francis. I'm on Instagram and YouTube and now TikTok all of a sudden. So listen, if you want to follow me, that's brilliant. But thank you. Thanks for taking the time as well, Rob.
Oh, look, my pleasure. Have you got on Clubhouse yet?
I have, yes. I've used it a few times. I need to use it more, to be honest. I keep jumping into random people's rooms and they invite me on stage and I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just getting to grips with it now.
Yeah, great. Well, look, Ben, I just want to say thanks a lot for giving your time. Really grateful. We're, we help young and underprivileged people start meaningful businesses to change the world. So you've been a great part of that. I've had a lot of fun. Thanks a lot, Ben.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Speak soon.
Cheers, Ben.
Fantastic, eh? We are almost at the end. Ben is on the board. Just one more person to go. It's been an incredible day. Let's just take a moment to remember what this has all been about. Raising money for the Rob Moore Foundation and raising money for the Princess Trust, helping the next generation of entrepreneurs. That was truly awesome. You're just an everyday person who's done absolutely something completely extraordinary. I've lost my words. It's been a very, very long day. It's been a marathon, right? But we are now going to speak to our last guest, our last expert. Again, this is an amazing story, and I absolutely love their products, especially when I can get 2 for 1 in the garage down the road. But anyway, that's another story. Our guest is Alan Barrett, who is the CEO of Grenade. He's a serial entrepreneur. What an amazing story. It all started with a £500 loan. He's been the UK Entrepreneur of the Year 3 times. He's a mentor to the Virgin Startup. He's an angel investor. It's one of the fastest growing companies. It's all about disruption. Rob, take it away for our last expert of the day.
Thank you, Pete, Ben, Kieran, just checking the tech. All good, are we? Oh,
we're good. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm unmuted. Good. Yeah, I've got a message there to start the screen. I thought it's on. I'm sure it's on. It's on. So I'm cutting the top of my head off. I'm going to go back very slightly. Cheers. Saturday night. Has it been a long day?
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. I'm so grateful.
My pleasure.
Al, I'm going to start with, I obviously just spoke to Ben, who you know very well. It's great to have you as our...
I just caught the last 10 minutes. So I just came in as you were saying about possibly having a business selling Land Rover parts. I was like, no, I want to do that. I've got to go and start it tomorrow now and get a head start.
Yeah, I thought of you. When I came over to yours, there were loads of Land Rovers there.
Got 2 more now.
Have you?
Got 2 more. I must be an absolute sucker for punishment. You know what's weird though, and actually probably because we'll discuss brand and you've obviously been discussing Gymshark and their amazing brands. Land Rover is a fantastic example of, dare I say it, stuff that's probably not as good as it could be, and there's probably there's certainly better vehicles out there in terms of reliability, but they've just got that heritage. Literally, I've got a heritage defender, but they've just got that ability to just make you want it. It's genius, and I like overkill, and Land Rover's massive overkills. Most people don't take them off road, certainly not to the level they can do. But I think there's something about jumping in a Land Rover where you just get that sense of adventure, and certainly having the capability you don't really need. It's like having a really fast car, but driving a fast car really slowly. It's just nice to know it can do it, even though you don't, if that makes sense. So I just like that. They do it really well. Land Rover do it brilliantly. And again, it's another, Solihull business. So woohoo, Solihull.
Right, I'm gonna going in again. I don't normally ask like really open questions, but
yes, you do.
All right then, I do with you, Al. So how'd you go from borrowing 500 quid to having a 200 million pound plus brand, going international, disruptive, everything that you've done? I love your brand. I love what you do. How do you do that? Take us on a little journey, Al.
Yes, it's a great question. I'd love to say I know, but I probably really don't. I think, do you know what? And I'm sure, again, I missed the start of Ben's talk, but I know what he will have said as well. I think people that probably start these incredible brands that go on to do amazing things don't really set out to do that. That's probably not the vision. I think people that say, right, I want to go and build $1 billion brand, chances are they probably don't. I think certainly in our case, I just did what I loved. I've always done what I loved. I've been in the fitness industry for 30 years. So I started when I was 14 in terms of training. So straight away, because I've loved it and I've grown up with it and all my friends are in it and that's just been my life, I've never spent a day at work, even though really I'm kind of always at work. So that way, I think it enables, I think people like myself and Ben and whatever are super dangerous because we really love what we do. And if people then want to come in and compete with that, certainly, a lot of bigger, more corporate brands have probably got a lot more heritage, a lot more money, a lot more staff, more formidable. We're really hard to compete with because we can be so agile and have got that passion. And someone actually said to me once, they said, I don't know how you do it, Alice, you could buy something for £10 and sell it for a £5 and yet somehow you've made money. And I didn't know what he meant at the time. And it took me years to really realise what he meant. And I think somehow if you just do the right thing for your brand and you enjoy it, it'll kind of come good in the end. And certainly, trying to treat people the way you'd expect to treat them, whether it's people you work with, suppliers, retailers, consumers, being fair, trying to make good decisions. I've always said with regard to the brand, if we do what's right for the brand, who loses? Nobody. It's great for us. It's great for investors. It's great for consumers. It's actually great for the competition because, it broadens the market. And I think it probably tells people what good looks like. But yeah, in terms of how we did it, I mean, there's the raw truth. I say we because it's my wife and I that started Grenade. Having a brand is probably quite a lonely thing to do. Running a business, as you know, can be quite a lonely thing to do. So if you can get one other person to back you and support you, and you mentioned obviously your business partner. In my case, it was my wife who also became my business partner. At least the world is that little bit less lonely because that's one less person that you actually have to convince. Because I was actually saying to someone earlier today, when you have an idea and it's just an idea and you really haven't got any money, and you've got there's just that one person that believes in it, and then you get a second person to believe in it. You've got to go and find those millions and millions of people and get them to believe in it and spend the hard-earned money on it. And it's obviously incredibly difficult. And I think if you actually looked at how hard it would be, I'm not sure if anyone would actually get it started. So we sort of took every day as it came, did what we enjoyed, tried to make good decisions, always made and always do make the very, very, very best product we can, always. The amount of times we've had a product it's not quite right, we haven't launched it. That's certainly happened more times than we have launched products. We didn't take a day off for 4 years. We never took a salary for 4 years. And everyone says, how can you do that? And we had a rental property, which was £1,000 a month at the time. And we still lived on that. We've got no kids. I was driving a van. My wife had got a car, but we didn't really have a lavish lifestyle. I'm having a gin now, but for 20 years I didn't drink. So I've always trained. I've probably never paid for gym membership in my life because all my friends own gyms. And I suppose we probably bootstrapped a lot without realizing how much we'd bootstrapped. And although the 4 years were incredibly hard, they just flew. We hadn't realized that we hadn't had a day off for 4 years, because if we went anywhere overseas, that was just like a holiday swish. We were working for Grenade, but we're in Vegas at the Olympia or whatever. So again, it was work, but you're working in some sunshine, and you're getting to sort of see the world for free almost. So it never felt like work. And we hadn't probably quite realized what we'd created. I think the first time we realized we were onto something special was after the first 12 months, and we only ever had one product, and we only ever intended to have one product, which is a weight loss product called Thermodetonator, which is the Grenade bottle that you see everywhere. And after a year, we'd made that the best-selling weight loss product in the UK. And funnily enough, I think actually still now, 10 years later, it still is still number one on Amazon. It's just never really been knocked off that top spot, which is, what there's not many things you could say now that actually do well now that did well 10 years ago. And they've actually sort of probably bridged that gap, all that change we've seen in terms of social media and online, and obviously all the recent COVID stuff that's kind of already felt like it stood the test of time. And it's only 11 years old. And I really feel like we can build something iconic with Grenade, and are building something iconic, very much like that Land Rover, brand I was talking about earlier, where they just built something iconic that people love. And, where I grew up with Cadbury's, you probably did too, because obviously I'm from Birmingham and Cadbury's are from Bourneville. Now I've got no kids, but my friends' kids, they wouldn't dream of eating a regular chocolate bar. They eat Carb Killer, they eat Grenade. And again, if someone said to me 30 years ago, you're going to make a chocolate bar that's going to be, better for you than regular chocolate, and you're going to outsell Cadbury's Dairy Milk, I'd have thought they were mad. Because that's got 100. And again, this is, Cadbury's is a brand that I absolutely love. Who doesn't? So we never really set out to compete with anyone or take anyone on. It was just all about, like I said, doing the right thing, working hard, having fun. And Jules and I are just, especially Jules more so than me, just incredibly focused, hard workers. And like I said, with not having kids, that was, Grenade became our baby, and still is, really. So I suppose when you sort of do all these things with some focus and some discipline, and you just sort of stay blinkered and just keep trying to make good decisions. And as Ben was saying, surround yourself with great people, which sounds easy, but it's in fact incredibly hard, especially early on, because you've got to keep convincing people that what you're doing is a good idea. You can't afford to pay them as much as they can go and earn in a proper job, working for proper employers who actually know what they're doing. So that's incredibly hard. It actually gets easier to find great people as you sort of build a bigger brand, but in the start, it's really hard. I think if you add all the sum of all these parts up, it starts to help to shape a brand. And I'm a huge believer in timing. It's the one thing in business that you can't change is timing. The moment you're in is the moment you're in. There's nothing you can do about it. Again, I'd definitely with Gymshark, and they've been 10 years early, pre-social media. the timing would have been wrong. Certainly for us, we kind of have had the benefit of people wanting to move away from sugar, for instance, and that's been hugely beneficial for us. If you're at a point in time which wasn't that long ago and people couldn't get enough sugar, then the timing's wrong. One of my best friends actually invented lactose-free milk, and they threw it all away, and he bankrupted because he invented it in the 1970s, and nobody knew what lactose intolerance was, and now it's everywhere.
Yeah,
but just timing.
Yeah.
Great. So it was a very long answer for one question. It's gonna be a long evening, isn't it? Cheers.
Nice. Yeah, well, you're all right. You've got your gin, so you look really happy.
Can we get you a virtual gin? Can we do that? Just a virtual.
Yeah.
I thought this is a fireside chat, but there's no fire.
No, I don't get that. Does there have to be a fire in fireside
yes.
chat?
Funnily enough, I've got my fire going in the other room, which when I go out, it's probably burnt the house down. If I suddenly start smouldering and run and the fire alarm goes off, you know what's happened. So my apologies, but I'm about to be burnt alive.
Right. We'll have
on camera.
Yeah. We'll have to get the studio updated then and get a fire here.
Get a proper fire in a bar, get a gin bar.
Yeah. Right. Al. So we've got, kids here are 12, 15. We've got, early 20s. And then we've got parents of young entrepreneurs. So I'm also going to focus a couple
I haven't sworn yet, have I? I don't think I've sworn.
Well, Ben dropped the F-bomb.
So he did. I saw that.
Yeah. Which is
pretty guarded now.
All good. People are used to me, my language, so they're fine. Right. So go right the way back to the start of Grenade, or when you started your first ever business and you were young. What advice would you give to that young, excitable, relentless Al?
Okay, so I'd say my first business, funnily enough, I was 11, and my dad was a heavy goods vehicle mechanic. So he only ever used to work on lorries and big stuff, coaches, things like that, never did cars. And he had I want to say contract, but he didn't have a contract. He just maintained vehicles for a delivery company who delivered for Cadbury's and Mr. Kipling. I think Mr. Kipling is still going, I think. I don't look for it anymore because I don't go down the cake section, so I don't trust myself, but I imagine they're still going. But it was a big cake business, wasn't it? Back in the 1970s. So he did deliveries for that, and very often his vehicles would come in for MOT. And this is the story he told me. It's probably not true now, so I'm probably incriminating myself. But the story I got was these vehicles would come in and there are cakes on the back, and there probably weren't quite as many preservatives and stuff in them then as there are now. And they didn't have as long a shelf life. So, they'd be sort of in date when they came in, and like, Dad wasn't the world's best mechanic, if I'm totally honest. So by the time the vehicle went out again, the cakes would probably be out of date, so they could throw them all away. So voila, opportunity for me to help myself to free cakes. First rule of business, if you get it for free, amazing profit margin, right? Amazing. So getting free cakes, take them to school, 15 pence each. Show my age now, aren't I? At least it was real proper money. It wasn't like in guineas or shillings or whatever, pre-decimalisation. Yeah, so 15 pence each, 2 for 25p. And of course, I could just get unlimited amounts of these cakes. So soon learned what the best sellers were. Didn't tell my parents, so I was a little bit embarrassed. And I knew they'd tell me off, so I didn't tell them. And they couldn't work out then. The reason they sort of cottoned on to what I was doing was Dad would like bring cakes home and stuff, and I'd be like, don't eat those ones, don't touch those. You can have those. So you can have like the Mr. Kipling country slices because nobody likes those. Don't eat the Cadbury's flake cakes because I can sell those basically. And they soon realised what I was doing, and I was selling them at school. And I'd go out in the playground. You'd have like a break in the morning, a lunchtime, and a break in the afternoon, and I'd have like a little queue. And then teachers worked out what I was doing, and then the teachers started buying, and then they didn't want to walk out to the playground, so I'd go around the staff room. So I'd take the cakes to them. So bigger captive audience, and the headmaster found out and threatened to expel me. And then my parents got called up to school, and they sort of knew what I was doing at that point. And the headmaster said, he said, look, your son's either going to end up a multimillionaire or he's going to end up in jail. I've never been to prison, funnily enough. I don't really want to start now. But yeah, probably got a point. So that was my first ever business. Take it. And what did I learn? I think, amazing profit margin if it's free. So I'm not encouraging theft or criminality, but yeah, that worked for me. So I guess having a product that's in demand, and also no competition, because no one could outcake me in the playground. But it's amazing. I absolutely, and it was never really about making the money. It was about sort of probably. was never unpopular at school. I was actually quite popular, but I was never sort of sporty. I was kind of quite geeky, so I was quite clever. I probably should have been bullied. I wasn't bullied, but I think it was it just made me quite popular, really. So I was I could get stuff other people couldn't get. And I think that's really what got me into the gym industry, is when I was like 14, 15 years old, and when I work experience in the gym, and everyone was like 10, 15 years older than me. And I just liked the fact that this gym was like basically full of multimillionaires and sort of criminals and nightclub bouncers and all this stuff. Just a different set of people than I've ever been exposed to, and people could get stuff. And it was just a really exciting thing to be part of. It was pre-internet. It was all quite entrepreneurial. And I think, back then, I just learned how to hustle. And I think to a certain extent, either you got it or you haven't. My family weren't really hustlers, but I think that taught me some hustle. And you were saying to Ben earlier that you don't get taught a lot of this stuff at school, and you don't. The education system's dangerously outdated, probably by at least 100 years. And this sort of stuff. And again, the stuff you're teaching now, the entrepreneurial stuff, and teaching kids actually how to go out and do something for themselves, I can't tell you how valuable that is. I really can't, because I think, to go into the big world and rely on someone else to maybe give you a job is going to be really tough for the next, and it's never been easy, but I think to go out probably and make your own job, certainly for me, because I'm unemployable. So if you can go and make your own job, then that's probably got to be better. And the gaps are out there. You've just got to look for them. The gaps are out there. And again, being fearless. So even threat of expulsion didn't really stop me, to be honest. I think they were trying to scare me, and I thought, well, we can't really sort of get expelling for selling cakes. I think it was I was making more money than the teachers at the time. I didn't like that. So yeah, being fearless is another good one for you as well. Don't be scared to, and again, actually, Ben was saying about following your gut. I can't say how true that is. You'll always get people telling you not to do stuff. That's easy, but just if you think something's right and you believe it, you should always go for it. You regret it if you don't.
Thanks, Al. So if you could pick 3 traits in addition to what you've said, maybe let's go specifically for young entrepreneurs, because I've helped a lot of entrepreneurs, and a lot of the younger ones think they're at a disadvantage. I haven't got money, I haven't got experience. And what I'm trying to do with this summit is get them thinking in a different way and seeing the advantages of youth. So could you pick, do you think there are youth advantages? And if you do, could you pick 2 or 3 traits?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, I don't think you're going to think this is bonkers. I don't think having money is an advantage. I really don't, for a number of reasons. I think it can make you a bit lazy, potentially. And I think this is why some of the bigger corporate brands are falling into the trap where maybe lazy is the wrong word. Maybe, uncreative, perhaps. Because if you can go, and actually we fell into this trap at Grenade about two years ago, where we could go and do some of the big expensive brand stuff. And we did. And then, you spend a few £100,000 on something. And just because you can afford to go and do something doesn't mean you should. And the nice thing about having no money, it absolutely drives creativity, because you can't afford it, you can't do it. And, you're all about disruptivity, and, being disruptive doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be disruptive. So, the best thing we did was, blagging a tank off a friend of mine, taking a tank into a show. All of our competitors have got huge marketing budgets. They were taking Formula One cars and their drivers and, racing bikes and into shows and building enormous booths that you could live in, and then smashing them up again 2 days later and, sort of going to the next show. And we just couldn't do any of that. We've got my wife and I, no money. And although we both train, we're not obvious fitness ambassadors. We just really believed in making a good product and believed in that brand. And not having money was great. We got like 12 quid and we spent it on 2 t-shirts. And we got this tank in and we absolutely stole the show, and it really cost us very little. So I think that's been my experience where, not having money has made you do stuff that's been really creative and, inexpensive. So that would be the first one. I mean, other traits, yes, certainly. I'm 44 now. And actually this would be, I'll ask Ben this next time I see him. You mentioned Clubhouse. I'm wondering now, I just missed the peak of social media just through, my age really. I'm not really interested in Snapchat. I'm not interested in TikTok. So that for me would be a disadvantage, because for me to sort of go on those platforms, which I should do, and and the brand does, I really don't enjoy it at all. But if you're young, and that's the thing, you love being on there. It's like me loving being in the gym. If you find going to the gym a chore, that's going to be your Achilles heel. I don't. But if if you find being on social media a chore, which actually I do, I probably wouldn't be on social media at all if it wasn't for Grenade. Excuse me. But if you're youthful now, you don't know any different. You grow up, they're on 20 different apps. You can sort of fly through it. That's how you communicate with your friends. This was certainly new to me. In fact, how old are you, Rob? I can't remember. Are you sort of late 30s? 40? Well, you've had a big paper round, didn't you? But do you find the same? You're phenomenal at social media. I don't know how you do it. I go into Clubhouse, I'm like, oh my God, Rob's in it again. You live in that place. And I know you should do, because it's having a moment, it's growing, and you get this amazing fun, and now's the time to do it. But I can't do it. I just can't do it.
I actually think you'd be really good on Clubhouse, Al, because you're very
I keep getting invited to stuff.
You can tell a good story, and you have fun, and there's banter in your chat. So I'm not saying you should go on Clubhouse. That's obviously your decision, but actually think it might be one of the social media platforms that might suit you. If the others don't so much. But
I struggle a bit, because it's not visual and it's just audio only, and you sort of, again, I'm gesticulating all over the place. I'm sort of quite visual, but I tell you what, then
you do that with
we'll do a Clubhouse. Let's do a Clubhouse.
We'll do a Clubhouse. I'll do a room with you. I'll make it nice and comfortable experience for you.
I've never done one before, so be gentle on me.
Don't worry, I will. And you could have a fireside chat by sitting next to your fire in the Clubhouse. So
exactly, you'll hear it crackling.
Yeah. Well, look, you're only. Go on.
So Alex Chisholm invited. This is Ben said the same. This is my experience at Clubhouse. I go on, I think, oh, there's Alex Chisholm, there's Rob or whatever, and I just look on, and it's like, oh, come on the stage. I don't know what the stage is. Where's the stage going? I'm thinking, can they see me? Can they see me? I'm not naked or something. I'm like, oh, covering the camera up. No, to leave quietly. I need to get into that. But so to answer your original question, if you love that sort of stuff, that's a huge advantage, because again, you can spend 12 hours a day on social media and make it work for you. That's definitely an advantage. And I think as well, I made a comment to someone. I suppose the third one I'd say as well is, when you're just younger, you're just more relevant to the time that you're in. And I actually made a comment. What I mean by that is I made a comment to someone actually the other day, in the sense that, I don't know if it's because I've not got children. I'm not around anyone really that's younger. There's younger people, obviously, at the office in the 20s and stuff, but because of lockdown, we're not really seeing each other. So I'm not really around, teenagers or anyone below the age of 10. So, they've got their view of the world, which, that's all they know, because all they've seen. I've got my view of the world, because I know what I've seen. Our grandparents had their view of the world because of stuff that they went through. And you've got obviously these sort of generational barriers, I guess. I've just got this feeling, I've got no proof for this whatsoever, but I've got this feeling now that the generational barrier between, say, my generation and then teenagers is probably bigger than it's ever been, because of social media and COVID and stuff like that. So I could, and you'd probably be this, although you've got kids, so it's different for you, but I just couldn't get into the mindset of someone that age, because I've just got no experience of it, the same as they wouldn't be able to get into my mindset. And the comment I made to a friend of mine was actually, it's almost like if I'm chatting to someone who's 13, 14, 15, 16, let's say, there's probably almost nothing that we would agree on at all, because we're just so different in terms of views, whether it's music or history or the future or the planet or whatever. We'll just have a different views on it, and that's kind of a bit scary for me. And you can see how people kind of get older and just sort of lose touch. But how exciting now to be coming into the world, probably, although I think there's a lot of challenges ahead, and in some respects I'm glad I don't have kids, because I think there's going to be a lot of difficult times ahead. But how exciting to come in, have youth on your side, and just have that perspective on the world, and then hopefully this generation can make it what they want to make it. So I think those probably a very long answer again, as usual with me, but there's probably three things now I think hugely beneficial, probably, if you're the right age. And again, actually having to support your parents, there's a fourth, because I never actually had that. And just in the sense they never discouraged me, but my parents certainly, especially my dad, was just a very, very hardworking guy. So I learned that from him. But he'd only ever worked for himself and his family business, so he got a very blinkered vision of the world. And I think he was just always very, he never really wanted or expected much of me, if that makes sense. So, and I'll clarify that. Like if I'd have just said, and there's no disrespect to van driver because they're doing an amazing job, but if I'd have just come home and said, Dad, I'm going to be a van driver the rest of my life, he'd have just thought, fine. He'd just be happy I'd got a job. And in a way, that's probably really nice, but I wish he'd probably pushed me more and encouraged me more, because I think then I'd have probably, where I got to now, not that I've actually got there yet, or certainly when, where I got to when I was in my 20s with my second ever business, which was a distribution business, I'd have got there 10 years earlier. So I think I probably wasted a lot of time where I went and learned stuff, but I really wish he taught me. Although to be fair, like I said, he did have an amazing work ethic, and I just, I learned that by default. The downside being he was never there when I was growing up. So, and actually the fault there, he never made any money either. So again, as Ben was just saying with one of his points, the first thing I did when I actually made any money was I bought my parents a bungalow by the sea, because they always dreamt of doing that and never been able to do that. So, and buying the car and things like that. So that's the absolute pinnacle, the icing on the cake of being successful is actually doing things for other people. I'm not really bothered about myself, to be honest.
Yeah, great. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions I haven't asked anyone else. I've had some themes, but just want to do something different with you, Al, because I've got to know you since came over to yours. We did the Disruptive Entrepreneur, and one thing that strikes me about you that I really like about you is you like to have a laugh. Like you cannot relax around Al because he's going to have banter. He's going to take the piss out of you. He's probably going to pull some prank on you. And do you think, you mentioned about having fun, do you think that's an important element, of being a business owner and entrepreneur, is having fun?
It's the most important thing I think about being an entrepreneur, having fun. And I think, and not this week, because I'm really miserable this week. I'm really grumpy, as you know, really grumpy this week. I'm having a very grumpy week at the moment, with just frustrating things going on. But otherwise, I think it's critical, because funnily enough, and I'll give you a specific example. So this week, he's my managing director actually now, but he was sales director beforehand. But prior to working at Grenade, Phil was managing director at Cadbury's for 20 years. So, you've got someone there that's kind of worked in, again, a fantastic brand that we admire, and, originally a family-owned business, and come to, Grenade, where it's obviously a bit of a madhouse. And he was saying, he's 3 years older than me. He looks a lot older, but he's 3 years older than me. And he said as well, I've never had this much fun. And there's, don't get me wrong, we're doing a lot of difficult stuff. It's never been done before. We're under lots and lots and lots of pressure. We can absolutely screw this up, and we do regularly screw this up. But I thought that was a really nice thing, actually, for him to say, I've just never had this much fun, because it's long hours and we're all quite tired and there's big risks. And obviously COVID's hit hard, and we've kind of grown through COVID. We've hired another 20 people this year, which, we feel responsibility for and don't want to let down. So I thought that was a really nice comment. So I've never had this much fun. And again, it comes down to sort of surrounding yourself with amazing people. And I suppose now, because the team are so good, I'm probably having, in some respects, more fun than I've ever had, because a lot of those day-to-day pressures, I've got 2 MDs, I've got an international MD and I've got a UK MD, and they've adopted more responsibility. And I've got so much faith in them. And I know they can do this better than I can, without a shadow of a doubt. And again, as Ben was saying, recognizing that in the people and recognizing what you're not very good at. And I say, actually, I'm not very good at playing any individual instruments, but my forte is conducting the orchestra. So, it's been easier for me to kind of have fun. And again, luckily, a lot of the things that we've done, like, making the world's largest protein bar and stuff like that, and, going over to Holland and making this bar, and it's got like chocolate chips the size of my fist. It's just stuff that's just, it's funny, really, because it's just fundamentally quite stupid. So, and you know, it took 6 people to lift it, and we hadn't really thought how we were going to get it home, and we were thinking, can we get it back on the plane? And I'd hired a plane to go over, like it won't fit on the plane. And then we sort of shipped it back, and then like we got the Guinness World Record and stuff for it. And yeah, it's just something. It's kind of, and again, technically, it's really difficult to do, but we just sort of made it fun. And subsequently, we've blown it up, unfortunately, because the army were going to eat it, and because of COVID and regulations, we couldn't obviously get enough people together at one point to eat our gigantic bar, so we've had to blow it up. So I know which we haven't shared the footage of yet, but yeah, you couldn't make it up, could you? But no, you know, if we'd have taken ourselves, and I actually say to people all the time, we make really serious product for serious people. So a lot of our customers are, you know, Olympic athletes, professional athletes, a lot of military, specifically a lot of elite military. We work with all the elite military around the world. So these are pretty serious people. But, you know, we make a product that looks like a hand grenade, and, you know, we drive tanks through London, and we sort of paint it orange so that, you know, we don't sort of cause any offence. So, because people find green tanks offensive, but an orange tank's funny. So just stuff like this. So, and I think if you can I think it means we get away with a lot. And I suppose grenades is very much an extension of me. Because all brands are extensions of their founders, because they kind of have to be, because all the good stuff and all the bad stuff all ends up in there somewhere. So I think, yeah, having fun is absolutely critical. I feel really, really sorry for anyone out there who's running a business and not having fun. And there's loads and loads and loads of people out there at the moment because of COVID. I really think it's, it's tragic. But yeah, I can't imagine having a restaurant or something like that, or a hotel. It just wouldn't be me. It's too serious. So this enables me to do things like having a giant grenade-shaped hot air balloon and then jumping out of it, and stuff. And again, we just attract lots of wacky people. So if somebody messes with the day and they want to parachute jump off Everest, I'm like, well, as long as I'm going to do it, yeah, they can do it if they want. So, and you know, Richard Browning with his jetpack. So partnering with Richard. But yeah, so yeah, really serious product, but don't take ourselves seriously. You know, as the Red Bull, really, Red Bull don't take themselves seriously, but again, you know, make a perfectly serious product, but having fun with it. So, and you have loads of fun doing what you do as well, even in the dulcet world of property. You've made it fun. You've made it a brand. I've got loads of boring commercial stuff. It's really dull.
Yeah, I agree. I think I like to come from the place of take your work really seriously, but not yourself. And I think that's because look, let's be honest. We spend a third of our life sleeping. So we've got 2/3 of our life left. We're probably going to spend at least a third of our life working. It's not much
more
fun if you don't.
No, there isn't. Well. No, there isn't. And you've got to figure out how to combine this. I can't really combine sleeping and working as such yet. Although, funnily enough, I do have lots of weird ideas when we sleep. And then when I wake up, I'm thinking, oh, I might go and do that, funnily enough. But no, absolutely. It's having fun is fundamental. You know, you're not here long, are you? And it doesn't mean to say you have to do things, you know, you can still do things well and have fun. And you can still do things properly and have fun. And you can still grow and do lots of other stuff and enjoy it. But certainly I think that, if the day I think I stop having fun, I'd have to just go and do something else. I really would. And I think, huge bugbear of mine, because people don't believe me when I say this, but I'm actually inherently quite lazy. So I'm one of those people, if I'm going to do it, I will do it, and I'll do it to win, or just won't do it. I hate it when people half do something. I just find it really irritating. I did notice that the board on your little map, with all the names on, you've missed a T off Barrett, but never mind, I'm over it. It's fine.
We haven't. This one,
you have.
This has not got your name on it.
No. The one with Pete Cohen on there with the board. If Pete wrote that, you missed a T off.
Pete, after our conversation today, thank God that wasn't me.
So it's a good job I've had half a gin.
Yeah.
Kicking off now. You know, I'm a massive diva. But no. Joking aside, we just said I don't know if it's COVID or society. Or do you know what? It might just be me. Perhaps I'm just a massive knob. But I it amazes me sort of nowadays, just the amount of stuff that just people just don't do properly. And do you know what? For everyone sort of listening, both of you, for everyone listening, there's your opportunity. Find something, no matter what it is, that just is not being done well, and it's everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. I've got talking about Land Rovers. I've got a Discovery under warranty. Luckily, the roof is pouring in. I mean, pouring in. Right, to the point you can open the door and it's like, you're going to get washed away. And I'd heard of this fault before. I phoned Land Rover, and I got phone Land Rover, not really interested. So they said phone Land Rover assist, or did they come out? Went, oh yeah, got loads of these. This is a 2-year-old car, and when they designed the windscreen, it wasn't thick enough. Then you think, great, So it's like, can you repair it? No, it's got to go to somewhere else. 2-man job. And again, to be fair, it was actually pretty helpful. But it's just like, oh, someone's made this. They had one job. And the amount of people now, but wouldn't it, because Land Rover got to pay for this, wouldn't it be easier to do it properly the first time than upset all those people, send all those cars out into the world, all over the world, bring them all back again, take something off, and then put it back on? Wouldn't you do it properly the first time?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just something that's happened. I don't know. I just
like that.
Yeah. Well, because I realised with Grenade, and it's been years since I've said this, the opportunity I saw with Grenade was I won't mention the brand. There was in fact, it's still around barely. There was the biggest brand of 12 years ago, say in the UK. And their model, and actually a huge American brand at the time, which is still sort of everywhere, their model, this is going to sound bonkers now, they've got really expensive products, which I'd realised were really quite cheap to make. Our stuff actually is quite expensive to make. This stuff is really quite cheap to make. And I'm talking like, £2 to make it, 80 quid retail. It's like criminal. And when I sort of queried this and started looking into supplements, I'm like, how are they justifying this margin? And someone who worked at the company said, oh, because our model is just to sort of find a consumer once and just keep finding new consumers. So basically, he didn't say this, but I heard ripping everyone off once. And I'm like, well, I thought back then, surely it's got to be easier to keep existing consumers happy than keep looking for new ones. Because eventually you're just going to run out. And again, for every time you sell something to someone and they tell people don't buy it, you've got them working against you all the time. You don't want consumers working against you because it's not really that helpful. You want consumers actually telling people your stuff's good. So isn't it just easy to make something that's actually good? And that was like their entire model. And I'm not saying it's, I do think it's wrong, but that was their model and it worked for them. And then, one of those brands is still pretty big and one's kind of gone into nowhere, which I can sort of understand now. But again, I couldn't get my head around that because I just thought, well, I'll make something, perhaps it's naive, I'll just make something that's better and consumers will just keep buying it, which they do. But I don't know, I wish perhaps more companies did that, because a lot of things I buy now, I don't know if you find this, a lot of stuff I buy, I'm fundamentally so disappointed I'm never buying it again. But do you find that you sort of stuff just doesn't do what it says on the tin?
Yeah, I think some things. I mean, I do try and buy quality stuff, watches, cars, clothes, but still you can pay 50 quid for a designer t-shirt and in 2 washes,
And again, you've summed something up there, because I think there's this, there's the fear, isn't there, that if you kind of, there's obviously the, potentially buy cheap, buy twice. But I've just discovered Primark, and I've got these Primark pajamas, and they were 13 quid, and I love them. And I think, you know what, fair play, you can see why it does well. And as soon as they're open again, I'm going to go buy some more. But I've never shared that with anyone. But but what I was going to say was, I've noticed that buying really expensive stuff, you don't necessarily get what you pay for either. I'm embarrassed to say, most expensive thing I ever bought. Do you want to know what it is? Yeah, I'm not proud of this.
I do.
Okay, so it wasn't the most expensive thing in terms of absolute value, but it's the most expensive thing in terms of it was an absolute rip-off of what it was. And this is going to sound really bad. It was a toilet brush. Right, so had a whole bathroom. I'm going to explain this though. You're laughing, right? But I bought a really expensive toilet brush. I didn't quite know I'd done it. So, but I had this, not in this house, but my other house had this wet room fitted out. and it was quite an expensive wet room, and had everything matching, and it all looked lovely. And for the most part, it was lovely. And the toilet brush broke after about 6 months, and it was obviously eating at a bar, so I'm very vigorous brushing. It was obviously going to have a hard life. I'm probably going to come back as a toilet brush, actually, I think, if there's a such thing as reincarnation. But broke this toilet brush, and I hadn't actually studied the invoice of this stuff because it kind of came as a job lot. And then when I actually got the invoice out, this toilet brush, have a guess how much the toilet brush was? And it lasted 6 months, and it's literally snapped. It was metal.
75 quid.
300.
300 quid.
And do you know what? I felt physically sick. Bearing in mind now, that's probably 15 years ago.
Wow.
I cannot look at a toilet brush.
700 quid now then, with inflation.
Probably, yeah, with inflation. But the thing is that now I go Brabantia, so I don't buy the really cheap ones for a £5, but I go Brabantia, probably about 25 quid. Yeah, look the part, not really expensive, but again, proof that paying a lot of money for something doesn't mean it's any good.
And do you know what? I bet all the young entrepreneurs across the world watching this are so glad we're talking about toilet brushes.
Yeah. Well, there was a broader meaning, though. To be fair, there was a broader. Yeah. I'll tell you what, Rob. As we always say, wall-to-wall wisdom. You couldn't get this anywhere else.
But
it's either that or watching the rugby highlights.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah. Let's not talk about that. And because we're going.
You know the funny thing, we supply the Scottish rugby team, but not the English rugby team.
Yeah.
Say no more. Yeah, a bit annoyed with this. But yeah, sorry, carry on. We'll move on from toilet brushes.
But you actually make a really good entrepreneurial point. Find a problem or something that everyone else isn't doing very well and do it better. And it's everywhere. Business. Make a great point. Right. So
do you know what? Sorry, just one thing. Sorry, because I know you got more questions. So just elaborate on that as well. I'll tell you who else does that is Richard Branson.
Yeah.
In the sense of just, you know what? Because he obviously loves doing stuff for consumers. And again, I'm going sort of pre-COVID now. But, you know, that's where the airline and stuff came from. He just, you know, looking at something and thinking, you know, where are his methodology was just looking at sort of sectors where he thinks consumers aren't really getting a great deal or they're not getting a great service or whatever, and then just providing it. And again, he's got that trusted name that people like, maybe not so much now, but they like. And it's that simple, keeping it simple.
Yeah, love it. So we've got 4 minutes left. I'm going to do 4 questions. So
okay.
Can you
quick answers? No, I can't. Minutes. I'll do my best. Go on, far away.
Right,
far
number
away.
1. What's the best advice you ever remember receiving?
I should have prepared for this because I heard you ask Ben. Best advice. Because I know you're going to ask me the worst advice. The best advice. Probably actually, I think with Grenade, I was torn about something and someone just said, stay true to the brand. And as soon as they stayed true to the brand, I knew what to do.
Yeah.
So that's probably the best advice I had, definitely.
That's great. That's brilliant advice. And then worst advice, like you said, you knew the question coming. Worst advice.
Yeah, someone said, don't come on this program. I ignored that. I can't go. I'm joking. I can't go with that one. The worst advice I ever had. Now, I think Ben struggled with this, and I'm struggling as well. Because, you know, I'm not going to, I don't think, nothing springs to mind. And I'll tell you why nothing springs to mind. By advice, I think I'd probably almost immediately think of someone saying something to me that I'm unsure about, and then we're probably going and do it or not going and doing it. I don't think anyone could make me do something I didn't want to do. Yeah. So to be fair, I don't think I could say I've had sort of bad advice, because if they've given me advice that it might have turned out to be bad, but I probably would have agreed with it or I wouldn't have done it. So that's why I think nothing springs to mind. I wonder if Ben would have probably said the same.
That's still a good answer, though. That's a good answer. At least a quarter, maybe even a third of people I ask that don't have an answer. And that is still a good answer. Like some people say, I can't remember because I don't listen to bad advice. That's still a good answer.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. Wouldn't it be horrible if someone, oh yeah, I know what it was. Yeah. Someone said, yeah, someone said, yeah, don't buy those Facebook shares 15 years ago.
I interviewed Nolan Bushnell, who founded Atari and was Steve Jobs' first mentor. And Steve Jobs offered him 50% of Facebook for like 50 grand or something. Sorry,
that's bad advice.
50% of Apple for like 50 grand. So yeah, I know someone like that.
Do you know what I do as well? So a friend of mine, he's got a software company, and one of his employees was telling me this. This was actually at Richard's place. He was telling me this, and he's Norwegian actually, and he was saying that he's got this software company, and one of his employees came to him one day with this idea for a video game, and everyone just laughed him out of the room. So they said, "Oh, just go and start it," and good luck. So he did Minecraft.
Yeah.
Oops.
Love those stories. Right, 2 more, 2 minutes. Is there something that for a long time you believed, but you U-turned on or changed your mind, and even maybe recently?
Yeah, potentially. Do you know what? I believed, and I think maybe this is perhaps imposter syndrome. I really believed that we needed to probably get some corporate investment or some private equity in our case into the business to formalize the business a bit and to kind of help us out and to sort of tell us how to grow a big business. And I believe that to be true, probably, up to the point we kind of did it. And although we've had 2 great rounds of private equity and, touch wood, it's worked. It hasn't come in and probably transformed business or done anything that we probably couldn't have done anyway. So I think that would be the case. I think, let's say external investments. I believe we needed external investment, external help. And actually, in that respect, we probably didn't. So that's probably quite a common thing that people think they need. I think, people do think sometimes they need a lot of help, and actually they probably don't. You just need to run the test of time.
Yeah, great. And then is there something that you believe, but the masses or a lot of people around you don't?
Yeah, funnily enough. So it's probably, again, it's another finance one potentially for me. I believe that if you make good decisions with the brand, somewhere along the line, not necessarily an obvious sense, could be in brand value or whatever, or partnership, something, somewhere along the line we'll make money. And I'm fairly relaxed about where and how it is. I don't look at margins or finance at Grenade at all. In fact, when we make a product, the cost is the last thing I look at. There's about 5 or 6 things in front of that we do. And I would imagine we're the only people that do that. I'm probably the only person that does that. I never ask the cost, because the minute you put a cost on something, then you're limiting what's possible in some way, shape or form. And I don't want to limit what's possible. I want to make the best product I can. So once this backfired on me years ago when I had my distribution business and I made some whey protein, had that made and didn't query the cost. It was 150 quid a kilo. Which is quite a lot of whey protein 20 years ago. But funnily enough, did manage to sell some to Bupa for burns victims. It was the best protein you'd ever make anywhere, ever, hands down. Patented it and sold it. But it wasn't ever going to be a mass commercially viable product, because actually no one knew what whey protein was either. But yeah, so I'd say that on cost. I genuinely believe that cost.
Great. Al, where can we follow you? Where can we see what you're up to on socials? And also, what's the main product of yours that you like to promote?
So not in Clubhouse, although I am in Clubhouse, but you're not going to find me in there because I hate it. But that's going to change next week or whenever we're going to, because we're going to do a room and we're going to take over the internet. So I'm an Instagram Grenade CEO, which I also hate. But I am on there. I don't post an awful lot. My main platform actually is LinkedIn. I quite enjoy LinkedIn. And I think actually, because I'm just me on LinkedIn, and I do get a lot of people going, "Oh, Facebook, not LinkedIn." The LinkedIn police come out, don't they? Facebook, not LinkedIn. Can't put that on LinkedIn. Really? I just did. People quite like it. I'll keep doing it. So that's something I think I fundamentally believe as well. I think you can have fun on LinkedIn, and no one has fun on LinkedIn a lot of the time. And I think more people are having fun on LinkedIn, but it's like Facebook for adults, isn't it? LinkedIn and my Facebook profile is personal, and obviously Grenade are on all the platforms as well. So Grenade Official, and then mine's Grenade CEO. When I get sacked, I've got to change it to something else, haven't I? A bit like Grenade Al or something, probably, or just unemployed.
Al, I just want to say massive thank you. Thanks for supporting.
No, thank you.
Prince's Trust Young Entrepreneurs Summit, and giving your time for all the young entrepreneurs, inspiring them and having fun too. I think you're awesome. So grateful. Thanks, Al.
Anytime. My pleasure. Always. We'll do a Clubhouse. And Rob, again, long day. You done now? That's it? You finished? Long day. Honestly, the stuff you do, Rob, I don't know. Where'd you get your energy from?
I just love what I do. So it's
shows.
Enjoying it. Yeah.
All right. Well, look, cheers. Thanks to
Yeah.
your whole team as well. Really enjoyable. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Great talking as always. We'll catch up really soon. Thanks everyone for watching as
Cheers,
well.
Al. Take care.
Take care.
You.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye.
Hey, mate.
You all right, Pete? We
Yeah,
did
I'm
it.
good.
Pete,
Made
I
it.
just want to say a massive thank you to you, because it was only like a week ago when you said, hey, Rob, get me involved. And I said, hey, yeah, let's do it. And then you said, wait a minute, I've got some serious stuff going on. I don't think I can. And then you said, no, I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm so grateful to you. Look at that chart behind you. What an amazing journey. I think that's brilliant what you've done there. Just put that extra T on Al. Otherwise, he will wind me up forever. That T
on where?
Barrett. Al Barrett.
Where?
Yeah, Barrett. Alan Barrett, the extra T. That's it. Yeah, and Pete, we've also raised some good extra money. I don't know if you want to do a final shout out, but I'm prepared to give away some masterminding, and I'll try and get maybe some of the speakers who've been here to come and do some mastermind sessions over those months. And if anyone gives a chunky donation, I'll give them half-hour business consultancy one-to-one. I just want to obviously raise as much money as possible. So,
I mean, for me, it's been incredible. I've never seen a day like this before. You know, you've brought in all of these people. It's been unreal. I don't know whether all the people that have watched, and I can see obviously some people have been through the whole day, and that is a major achievement, because they say, whoever they are, that you can't concentrate for more than 20 minutes. I think that's all nonsense, right? If something is interesting and you're interested, then you can learn. But Rob, it's been a pleasure, and you know, it's been a great privilege for me to support you and your team, because there's a team behind the scenes here. And
Kieran,
this has been
Ben, Hannah, your legends. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Kieran,
It's
Ben,
been-
come around the front. Come here.
Come on, guys.
Come on. Kieran left, Ben right. Come on.
It's
team.
loving.
Hug. Oh, COVID.
Yeah,
It's all
COVID.
good. We're at
Bubble.
bubble. Yeah.
Bubble.
Thanks, chaps. You're awesome. And actually, are we still live on Facebook? Cool. So you can see there's a link coming across the bottom of the screen. So anyone who's watching on Facebook right now, if you donate £50, we'll give you this whole event, the whole entire recording, because you've only seen the last 2 or 3 speeches. We'll give you the whole lot. You can keep it forever. And if anyone donates £100 or more, like I said, I'll do that half-hour consultation. But I can't do too many of them just because I've got to be on Clubhouse all day. So yeah, anyone who's watching live on Facebook, £50 donation, you'll get the whole recording of the whole 12-hour event. £100, I'll do a one-to-one business consultation. And anyone watching, if you could support with any donations, that'd be fantastic. I want to get to 100 grand. I think we're probably approaching 50, maybe just a bit under that. I'm not sure yet. But obviously the recording I'm going to offer out for, you know, a decent long while. And I'm going to tap up some of these rich people that I've had. I'm just warning them. I'm going to be WhatsApping my rich friends for some good donations.
Rob, I was just going to say 2 things. First thing, Ryan Babel tomorrow. I forgot you're a big Liverpool fan. I'm doing a Clubhouse with him tomorrow at 12. So if you're around and you want to pop in, that was the first thing. And the second thing is, Rob, I've had a real opportunity over the last couple of weeks to speak to people who you've really impacted and influenced, because, you know, when you look at something from the outside, you don't really always know what's going on, and you do so many things. But I've really had the opportunity to speak to people who you have really impacted, and it's been really fascinating to hear how people talk about you because of who you are and what you do. So it's been a real privilege to support you in what you're doing today. It's been amazing. I've taken a picture of this, and I'll send it to you as well. But yeah, thank you so much. I'll see you in Clubhouse.
And thank you, Pete. You've been amazing. We're getting lots of great comments. Really appreciate everyone. We've all donated our time. I actually worked this out. And I think if I had to pay everyone their going speaking fee, it would be about $5 million. I've hired one of the people who spoke for $250,000, one speaker, and I paid him that. obviously, the other $4.75 million is your speaker fee, Pete. So thank you for waiving that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I've had a great time. I've got to go to bed. I'm actually not going to go on Clubhouse now. I'm going to go straight.
I'm not. I'm going to bed.
Yeah, go to bed. But thanks.
Good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Everyone, we love you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.